my name is Joel Villarreal. Welcome to the WTF Performance Garage. Today I'm working on my 1980 Corvette. This is a project that I've been working on for the last couple years. We have got it to the point where we are fresh suspension, engine on the frame, trans on the engine, and all the brakes are new. If you want to see some of that, I have a couple of videos that you can definitely check out. Today though, we're working on a problem that I knew I was going to have to tackle eventually. I just didn't know how I wanted to tackle it, but that is the oil pan. This is a factory Chevy 5.3 and it has the factory 5.3 oil pan, and it hangs out a good 6 inches below the frame rail. So I thought I would swap that oil pan to an F-body oil pan, and that should help with ground clearance, and it'll also help with steering clearance. If you're doing an LS swap, that pan hangs too low and it also rubs on the factory steering parts. So should be a pretty easy project. We're gonna lift the motor up, drop the old oil pan, maybe transfer over one sensor, and then put that F-body oil pan pickup tube. We have to clearance the windage tray and then put a new dipstick on. So let's get to work. I'm gonna try and pick the motor up, see how well it's balanced, but if I could just dangle it enough to get underneath and snake that pan off, that's what I'm going for. Man, actually, looking up the back end first. I think one ratchet strap will balance it out. That might be the smoothest way I've ever picked up this combination. I think that'll be perfect. Alright, I got the front of the engine just supported with the jack stand so I don't die. But this should be plenty of clearance to drop that oil pan off and get that windage tray out. We'll trim that up, we'll put the new pickup tube in, new pan on, and that's it. We'll drop it back on the frame. And that should give us a ton more clearance, and I'll show you the comparison in a minute. stick. Pop this dipstick tube off. Okay, new dilemma. I tried to get the dipstick tube out of the way and broke it off from the front, and it's really jammed in there. So instead, I'm gonna unbolt that windage tray and see if I can use a hammer to bump out that dipstick or something. Okay, so I got my windage tray out, and this truck one is too long for that pan to fit. So the front half, not half, but the front like quarter right before the bolts, it's got to be trimmed off. And then right that middle bolt on the driver's side, that just needs like a notch around it for the pickup tube to bolt on properly. So you can see this is kind of how it lays. And that's where that step up gets in the way of the bracket. So we're just gonna take a grinder, cut that section out, slice that front off, and then all this stuff can just be bolted together. clean all those metal shavings off, we can toss this thing together. All right, let's see if it clears the oil pan. All right, clears the oil pan. Let's double check the pickup tube. That's gonna work. Okay, I got a fresh dipstick tube. My old one did not come out without a fight. So here's 4 pieces of dipstick tube as I had to rip them out of the engine. This new one I got, it's routed just a little bit differently. It goes to a different bolt on the engine, no big deal. The problem was this thing didn't fit for some reason. So I ended up just clearancing it a little bit to actually physically fit in the hole. And then my aftermarket dipstick tube is this crazy like a drain cleaner. Like it's kind of floppy and crazy, and it wouldn't actually fit through the end of the dipstick tube, so I just nicked that off too. So this should work out no problem. Drip of oil. There we go. And bolts came off this one. So instead of bolting here, I'm just gonna bolt it right here. Sweet. Alright, dipstick tube and the dipstick are in, the windage tray is back on, and the pickup tube is also bolted on. Now, the last thing is just to bolt that oil pan on. Just wanted to take a second and show you the differences between these two pans, and right away you can see the height is like the main difference. They both have the oil filter in the same location, the oil cooler output in the same location, and they actually both have a oil level sensor in the same spot. And you can get it without it, but I wanted it because I think I'm going to use that as a turbo drain. But for now, I'm going to yank this old sensor out and just put it on the new pan, just so it's sealed. As soon as I figure out what fittings I need for the oil drain, I can go ahead and get any adapters or anything fittings I need. Oh, that's a goofy sensor. Woo. No wonder it's got this big weird slot in it. I'm gonna clean that. And then the last difference is just that actual pickup location. Because the pan is so much shallower, that the oil pickup is more in the center of the pan as opposed to the back. And also, that means that the drain plug is on the side instead of on the back. Not a big deal, just a little different. And then they actually ship these things with the oil cooler plug. It's not a plug, you can't just cap these. Oil has to flow through those two passages, so this is just kind of like a hollow pass-through. But never close that because you'll have no oil pressure and you'll be scratching your head why with a blown motor. All right, this thing's ready to bolt on. Up to, but that should fit. It feels like it's holding back. Update. So the pan was getting like bound up on this side. It was hidden, and I looked after taking it off and kind of messing with it a little bit. It was the pickup tube coming down and just grazing the front of the pan, like an 1/8 inch, not even, not allowing it to seal up. So I double checked my O-ring. It's seated, it didn't get pinched or anything like that. The oil pickup tube is fully seated. I think this is just a case of aftermarket parts being wonky. So I went ahead and massaged it a little bit. That sounds bad, but really I just gave the front of the tube just a flattened bottom, you know, zero flow issues like that, you know, it just needed a little clearance, and now I should be able to run it up, and of course, now it fits perfect. And that's it. The oil pan's on, new pickup tube, new dipstick, so probably a little less oil capacity, but now we're gonna put the engine back in the frame and we're gonna see how much clearance we have. Alright, engine's back on the frame. We got it fully bolted down, and now there's a ton of clearance around the steering components, and the ground clearance is way better. It still hangs below the actual frame just a little bit, but it is way higher up. So other than the aftermarket parts not fitting perfectly, so just you might run into that, this worked perfect. So now that the engine's back on the frame, I got a couple other things we can do. I gotta fix some old exhaust bolts that broke. I still want to tackle the fuel system next. If you want to see more videos of me working on my Project C3, then click that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.